Happy Friday, America. This is your host, Bryan Rudnick, here in the Rally for the Republic headquarters. I'm in the storm-ravaged state of Florida. Moments away, we're celebrating some important holidays. If you didn't know, Monday is Indigenous Peoples Day. But for the rest of us, Yom Kippur starts this evening. So I want to wish a Gamar Chatima Tova to those of you celebrating Yom Kippur. Make sure you got your bagels and lox ready for tomorrow night. But for the rest of you, Monday is Columbus Day. That's what I call it. That's what most of us call it. We grew up calling it. But for the people who believe in DEI and CRT and the pronouns, they feel that needs to be divisive. And that's why they were brazen enough to select Kamala Harris as their nominee. It's why they're going to lose in the 2024 election in November. I'm going to talk about all this and more right after the break.
This is a battle cry for the American way of life and a relentless pursuit of truth and justice. It comes from a voice with unmatched experience and unyielding resolve. Join us as we dissect current events and tip the scales in your favor. This is Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Bryan Rudnick here, moments away from starting the 25 hours of repentance. But before I get to it, let's close out the week with a bookend episode. So if you're getting ready for the weekend, a weekend where I have to fast, other people are clearly preparing for Indigenous Peoples Day. Remember, that's the inclusive left that claims to be calling a holiday anything other than Columbus Day. And they think that's not discriminatory. They trot out Barack Obama. He wants you to think it's unacceptable that black men in America aren't supporting her. It's like 2020 and Joe Biden, and he was saying, oh, if you don't support me, then you're not black enough. You remember that? Well, I'm a Jewish American. We call that a guilt trip, okay? It's downright rude. It's divisive. I mean, especially coming from a guy who works at Netflix with DEI movies now, and Barack Obama thinks it's, not acceptable. Well, what I have to say about that is, he's a racist, and he put another racist in. And we had decades and decades of proof, well-documented proof, that we had his friend Joe Biden as a racist man in the White House. So now what? He thinks it's a good idea to counter it and to promote the most woke agenda in American history. So he and Mr. Obama decided to fight hard to promote Kamala Harris. Well, you know what? I've got a response to that. I really do. Because friends don't let friends get bullied by men who wear mom jeans. That's right. And we don't let them support men who ship plane loads of cash to terrorists in Iran, or who turn a local policing issue in Cambridge, Massachusetts into the National Beer Summit in the Rose Garden. And when you watch the videos, he lectures black Kamala supporters in Pittsburgh. I'm talking about Barack Obama the other day. And it's clearly a room filled with Kamala supporters. And it makes you wonder if he hasn't lost it himself. Because if you're one of those people who's been busy, you got a real life, you've been worrying about hurricanes, tornadoes, king tides, or just life in general, okay? And you missed some of the major news of this week, especially impacting the presidential election, I'm going to give you a few highlights. The Dems are still out raising the Republicans. But here's the good news. You don't need money if your message is working and penetrating. Kamala needs money because she's failing. I've had several episodes where we've already addressed this issue, okay? But the left and the friends in the media realize, and we got to address it again. They realize the problem, okay? And besides, let me be real. I'm an American male. I like to brag. I like to brag about being right, okay? Kamala Harris does not appeal to men. I'll say it again. Kamala Harris does not appeal to men, okay? Unless their names are Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Now, if you're not aware, you didn't see the news like I mentioned, she has a problem with Latino men. She has a problem with black men. And she probably has a problem with Jewish men after some of the stunts that she's been pulling in the last week or two related to Israel. In fact, the Democrats are so worried, they know she's got such problems, that they had to send out the worst, and I truly mean the worst surrogate ever for this issue, Barack Obama, to go court black men and to guilt them into supporting her. Okay, so why are they doing this? Why is this problem only being identified now? Because the Democrats were just so brazen. They just figured if they send Kamala out there and all she does is talk about killing babies in the womb, that's going to get her all the female votes. And they realized she can go get and win over those suburban moms, okay, and these young single girls who are watching the influencers. And they knew that Trump and Vance would have a female problem, okay? And for some strange reason, nobody said, oh yeah, but don't we need to win some alpha males, okay? And the data's proving they've totally have cast off the alpha males. It's quite something. Really very, very surprised that nobody had the brains to say, hey, we need to win over some alpha males. And yet we're going to be dumb enough to trot out a guy like Barack Obama to go fix it, okay? So let's be clear. Wives aren't convincing their husbands that the most important issue to them, meaning to the husbands, is an ability for the wife to kill babies in the womb. So now they don't have that one-to-one surrogate you heard me talk about the other day. And Donald Trump has always understood the American psyche quite well, even before he came down that escalator in 2015. He may have a woman problem, but that actually remains to be seen. We don't know if it'll be validated. But he's been smart enough this election cycle to remain focused on what it will take to win. And I've talked about that a few times, okay? Because we know that he's got a strategy, okay? This is a very important thing I want you to understand. Donald Trump's strategy is not perfect in its execution, okay? But he's really good at relating to people and showing people he cares and telling people that he's going to solve problems. And he talks plainly. And everyone knows that those tactics are the antithesis as of how Kamala behaves. So she changes who she is depending on the audience in front of her. Heck, if you didn't see last night's town hall debate, she magically had a Latina accent. And in front of other audiences, she'll pretend to have some like hoodie accent. You know, like she's from the hood, the middle-class girl from the hood. But in front of other audiences, I mean, it's like ridiculous. Donald Trump, he attends football games, college football games, MMA matches. He's got Hulk Hogan at the convention ripping his shirt off, okay, with Trumpomania. And when Donald Trump sits in front of the black journalists, okay, he's Donald Trump. He's got a hot wife. He's rich. He acts like a guy who can justify the bravado. And I doubt there are men walking around dreaming about Kamala Harris's sexuality. So we've learned in the media this week that even her husband, Doug, isn't sure that he's okay with her sexuality because he was apparently flirting with other women in his law firm while they were married. But American men literally want to be Donald Trump. It's a dirty little secret you're not going to hear the pollsters talk about. You're not going to hear the pundits on the mainstream media talk about. But in reality, American men want to be Donald Trump. They don't want to have a Karen for a president. And Kamala Harris is a Karen, okay? She's just happened to complain enough to the right people like Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, and they're giving her a chance and she's blowing it, just like she did 20 or so years ago to Willie Brown. And the Democrats are just seeing unraveling of this problem. James Carville, he's been talking about it a lot, okay? He is just frustrated to high hell, but they're not listening to him because they want to be the people of inclusion. So now they've overplayed their hands with woke policies and it's backfiring. In addition to Kamala's promise of black and brown men, we're hearing that Democrats up and down the ballot are also having problems with the idea that people don't like this whole pronoun shenanigans stuff anymore. They're done with what the Democrats are calling gender identity, okay? You know what I'm talking about, okay? But what are we Americans calling it? We're calling it nonsense, okay? Men competing against girls, men in girls' locker rooms, gender transition for kids. What are they thinking? America isn't for it. And they want to shove it down our throats with these federal policies and their preferred pronouns. And now it's invaded the business world. And I got to see people's email signatures with she, him, and this and that and whatever. But I know it doesn't say American or patriot, and we're tired of it. It's not me, it's you, okay? And nobody with common sense thinks it's appropriate for a child to cut off their genitalia before they're even old enough to drive or drink a beer, and then they're going to be making a lifelong, life-altering decision. And the parents who are opposing it, like in places like California, are literally being threatened with jail for doing the right things that parents should do. And then, of course, these lefties want to let you, the taxpayer, pay for surgeries for prisoners. Yes, gender transition surgeries for prisoners. And if America wasn't already doing enough to support the illegal aliens who've entered this country, Kamala and her friends want you to pay for them to also get gender transition surgeries, okay? So we're going to talk about all this and more. I'm going to wrap it up right after this break.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Okay, Rally for the Republic. We're back. I'm your host, Bryan Rudnick. We were talking earlier. Trump world has already figured out that moms want to be kind of mushy and soft, and that's why maybe there's some acceptance of transgendered issues and soft on pronouns. But the Trump men understand the bravado. They understand that we can't be weak-kneed in the world. They understand we can't have a president who acts like Obama. We need one who acts like Teddy Roosevelt. And that's why the guy who wore mom jeans, okay, isn't going, or the woman we've got running as a Democrat in a poorly tailored pantsuit, that who's pretending to be middle class, pretending to be black, pretending to be Latina, pretending to be Indian, that isn't who's going to convince you to vote one way or another. And they understand, see, Trump is, I guess the best way I want to describe this, because I'm trying to sound intelligent here without sounding racist or derogatory towards certain people, but minorities in America, you heard this in the interview with Kevin Jackson, you heard this in the interview with Audrey Pruitt, that they got a raw deal from the Democratic Party who's professing to represent them. Just like us Jews who thought the Democratic Party, so many of my relatives and friends' relatives who thought the Democratic Party was going to stand by Jews, and they've been failing Israel while they defend themselves with their anti-Semite friends. It's why former congressmen, if you didn't see the news this week, there's a former congressman, Peter Deutsch of South Florida. I think he served like 20 years in the House, and he endorsed Trump this week. He joins the cadre of Democrats like Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. unfortunately lost his mother. He joins them in support of Donald Trump because he has seen how fake and phony Kamala is when it comes to Israel and her disdain for Netanyahu. So what I'm getting at is basically the following. America isn't waking up to thinking of the American dream and saying they want to be Kamala Harris. Because remember, in an election like this, when you're trying to persuade the public, you're trying to persuade people of a contrast, right? And Ronald Reagan had his famous, Morning in America TV commercials, and Donald Trump has tried to embody a lot of that same spirit in his campaigns and done a very good job of it. But when you think of the contrast of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, for about 4 decades in America, Donald Trump has stood as the symbol of American success, even before he won the election, okay? And we've got Kamala Harris, and what's she the symbol of? DEI, the left's attempt at inclusion, the left's attempt at socialism, okay? And this is a slippery slope towards their socialist agenda that's actually not working. And now America's woken up to the con. You, the Rally for the Republic listener, need to keep educating our uninformed friends and family members. If they don't like it, if they think it's offensive because you call Kamala Harris the DEI candidate, okay, let's get to the facts. Because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, but clearly the left doesn't seem to understand that America wants secure borders, America wants a strong economy, want a strong national security, and the Democrats have missed the boat on the gal they think is going to try to prove to us that they can deliver it. Because here's what's happening. You put up this woman, she's fake and phony, and it comes through. She's not Hillary Clinton. Even Hillary Clinton did a better job of fooling America, okay? And now, if you haven't seen it, even on Fox News here in Florida, Kamala Harris puts out this ad that all these guys, these military leaders, these national security leaders, they all support me. Okay. You know what I call that? The deep state and the establishment, okay? Because Americans have said no. Americans are rejecting Kamala Harris. And why are they rejecting it? Because the left is using lawfare against Trump, and they now have been exposed. And every time the left uses the race card as a tactic, they're actually dividing us. They're not uniting us like they claim. When Obama comes out there and says, basically, you should be ashamed. It's not acceptable if you don't support Kamala. And now you've got in various states and at the federal level, they're trying to Trump-proof the country and their states with all sorts of crazy laws and last-minute tactics, okay? And now another example of why the left is losing is because they're doing things like blocking the Republican Party from having poll workers in Fulton County, Georgia for this election, okay? Now the GOP has had to sue. The Fulton County GOP, the Georgia GOP, and the RNC together have come together to sue Fulton County for this, okay? And we're going to have to obviously drag this out. Who knows? This stupid lawsuit might have to go to the Supreme Court because the left wants to play this game. And every time they feed Kamala questions, okay? And I'm talking about this is why America has done away with the con, okay? This week, if you didn't hear, no one believes that the 60 Minutes interview was unedited. There's obviously clips that somehow didn't make it for the rest of America to see Kamala screwing up. Just like in another interview or the hurricane, she had to have somebody in her ear, okay? America's waking up to this con. We're tired of it. Why? Because it isn't solving the problems that America needs solving, okay? We need lower food prices, lower gas prices. We need lower insurance rates. Heck, here in Florida, we're going to be thankful if we can still get homeowners insurance after these two storms, okay? We need border security. We need our children to be safe at school and safe at home. Kamala isn't helping us to think that she can do that job. We already had the celebrity president, Barack Obama. America felt guilty. He was half black. They elected him. Yeah, I said it. He was half black. His mom was white. Nobody's disputing that fact, okay? And he failed. He failed America miserably. So we took in another celebrity president who was a businessman, and he proved there was a better way to run this country. And what have they been doing to him since? The deep state and the establishment are doing all they can, even taking shots at him, okay? So unless the Democrats have figured out a way to steal the election once again, Donald Trump is probably going to win, okay? Because we've already had the celebrities, we've had the half-dead guy in the Oval Office and his DEI hire running the country into the ground. And now Kamala, we know she thinks Biden was competent, and, you know, Biden said she was there for everything. So you've seen how it's gone to crap. And I'm going to post an AP article that came out this week, and it shows how Democrats who are running for Congress realize they have this problem. They realize America cares more about border security than abortion and some of the other lefty shenanigans. The voters care about border security, not pronouns. What do you know? So what are these Democrats doing? They've changed up their messaging. They've changed up their campaign ads. And these ads sound like Republican ads, not Democrats. But they realize that's the only way they're getting elected. Because in every single election, this is what we consultants understand and we try to emphasize, even for the candidates and the campaign staff and supporters, when you see, oh my gosh, this week we're down, that week we're up. There's always a message in every election, in every campaign, okay? The message is the message. It's an old adage. I didn't invent it. I just live by it. People care about a bunch of issues, okay? And there's only going to be maybe a maximum of 5 issues. For some, it's 1. Maybe there's 3. They're going to motivate people, voters at large, to go to the polls, to get involved, to be inspired, to care about a particular candidate or an election. Okay, there's not 52. There's not even 10. Okay, people aren't that complex, and they can't afford to be because life is too complex. So when you see a politician like Kamala Harris, and she goes to an audience and she's trying to cater them with fake accents and pretending like she cares, and then she wants to use an Obama to help guilt them into supporting her because she's struggling with that. And then you trot out a Tim Walz and he's demanding things like change the rules, revoke the Electoral College. You, the American public, the Rally for the Republic listener, need to tell our friends, our uninformed friends, to read between the lines, because it means that these politicians know they're going to lose. Yes, they know they're going to lose. You can feel it. I can feel it. And now they can feel it. Okay? It doesn't take a rocket scientist as a politician to know when you're going to lose, when the message isn't getting through, when the voters aren't taking to you, when nobody wants to hear your nasally, whiny voice. So then you get desperate to win and you do stupid things like the interviews Kamala did this week that really only bolster her credentials with the people who pretty much were supporting her already. So this week, you know, we talked about the differences of candidates, okay? So I'm going to put an end to this week. Like I said, it's a bookend, and I'm going to point out something with Governor DeSantis. You probably know that Florida was preparing for a second storm, second hurricane, major devastating hurricane, and Governor DeSantis, as you can imagine, any governor in that position has to be worried, has to be nervous. It's not just about his political future, but you're the number one person charged with protecting life and limb. You're the number one person charged with making sure that people will get back into their homes, will have electric and utilities, will have roads available to them, will have supermarkets available to them. This is a big job, being governor of a state like Florida, who is susceptible to storms, and this time, really, really big storms back to back. So he was doing what he can to prepare for the cleanup, the aftermath, and how he gets this big complex state of 67 counties back to its pristine and operable condition. And he made it clear Florida wouldn't tolerate price gouging, scams of people trying to, you know, really scam the elderly and people's homes are blown away, or any attempts by politicians, including Florida's Director of Emergency Management, who might try to do an emergency ban on the Second Amendment. Well, he put out an order. He made it very clear. Your Second Amendment rights violence were not going to be stopped, because in the past there was concerns about bans on gun stores selling guns and ammo right before storms. So DeSantis said, no way that's happening on my watch, and no way are people going to get scammed, and no way are we going to have price gouging. And he took the measures necessary of a leader to protect his citizens the best way he could from a natural disaster. And like prior storms, he had to work on how we're going to get electric done and restored. And there was a time when one of the last storms a year or two ago, where actually it was say it's the 2020, right before the 2022 election, where he had to get roads and bridges up in a matter of days. And he forced crews to get that done. And he's working overtime to communicate, to see the devastation, to help people, to send volunteer crews out so elderly people don't have to cut down trees and branches themselves and get hurt. But in contrast, you've got Kamala Harris, and all she wanted to do was insert herself in the biggest news story of the week, the incoming storm. She wanted some of that shiny DeSantis veneer, okay? Just like she wants to endear herself with every chameleon routine she puts in front of every audience she meets. So why am I saying this? Because I want to remind you, the Rally for the Republic listener, that it's your job and only your job to save this republic. You can no longer wait for the cavalry. We've got about 24 days left. That's 24 days of this race and every race down ballot going in any which direction. People in Florida who may not know how to get to a polling location, and you're going to have to help them figure that out and get the news to them. And we think we're going to take back the Senate in some places like Wisconsin and Nebraska, but it could be anyone's game. And Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, those are three states that really fit the category of it could be anybody's game. And the left and Trump world know that, and they're fighting over it. But you can truly make the difference, okay? You, the individual American patriot, just like the president of the Teamsters Union, who basically blessed for his members to support Trump, and now they're doing it in droves, and Kamala knows it's hurting them. Americans like you, the ones who don't embrace pronouns, the ones who understand that pronouns are nonsense, we are the ones who are about to run this country. But we've got to win to take it back first. I want to make sure you heard me say that. First thing you got to do is win. So we can't take anything for granted. There's no days to take off or to bask in the sun. Stop the complaining about the media and what they're doing and how they're going to hide for Kamala and the editing of 60-minute videos and all that stuff. Just let everybody know they're trying to hide it all for Kamala. And why would they be trying to hide it all? What do they need to hide that is so bad? But you and I know it. It's her incompetence. It's her fake and phony behavior. So make sure you get that out there, okay? Get it out there, do the work, and then let's get ready to smile in the days after the election, because at that point, we're only about 2 weeks away from Turkey Day. One of the greatest days in America that the left will probably say you're not inclusive enough because you killed and ate a turkey. With all that in mind, I'm Bryan Rudnick, the host of Rally for the Republic, and I'm going to thank you once again for your time. I want to thank those of you who contact me. Please continue to do so. Feedback at rally4therepublic.com. As always, like and share the episodes. Keep up the fight, because America, our great republic, is worth saving. So may God bless you, the United States of America, as well as our friends in Israel. I'll be thinking of you all and more when I'm in synagogue tomorrow, but I will not be calling it Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Rally for the Republic, where we are fighting for America's future. Visit 1776coalition.com. Rally for the Republic podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and download. Join Bryan Rudnick next time as we continue to fight for the American way of life and challenge the hypocrisy. This is Rally for the Republic.